I don't want this to be an Alex Lovin because that's Martin's job and he's not here. But
I don't mind, it's fine.
Alex is right in that we should use Napster because they do pay the artist more per play than any of the other platforms.
Yes, they do.
Thanks for the Spotify playlist, huh?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's what I'm using. Just they pay the artist the least per play.
Yeah, I've got one.
Or at least they're one of the worst anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, but they do have the highest number of plays. So it's...
Yeah. The list results on the players to thrill. This might be it. Okay.
Might be. Or you could just click the one I just sent you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
You prick.
Hey there, Cacophants, and welcome back to the second part of our James Bond theme discussion. You only bang twice. This is season 4 of the Cacophony Sessions, and as we prepare to discuss the later Bond themes from the 80s and onwards, I am the more modern, gritty, exotic yet realistic Dan Whittle, and it's mostly the same cast again, but in the spirit of the Bond franchise, we've written Martin out due to scheduling commitments. But let's welcome the guys back in with their movie quality one-liners. So we'll go Alex.
Is your name Ariel? Because we were mermaid for each other.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, dwell on that one a bit longer.
I'll try not to. Dan B.
We'll settle this the old Navy way. First guy to die, loses. There was a reason for... Can I just explain? There was a reason for that. Well, this is the second part of our James Bond episodes. That is a quote from Hot Shots Part 2. There you go. There was a very tenuous link.
You just said cerebral in your thinking. That was just...
Yeah.
Winning.
I've been told that before.
Anton.
Looking at porn is like lying to Parliament. It used to be wrong, but now it's all a big laugh. See, I'm just going to say now there's enough space to edit it. Fuck Boris.
We don't need to edit that out.
No, I think it would be fine.
That's a good, true sentence.
I've never heard of him. Who are you on about?
Boris Karloff.
Yeah, fortunately for us, he's not in Parliament anymore.
No.
That's
Still,
something to celebrate.
Yeah. As you can see, we've been very busy between episodes. I got changed. Make sure that you check out our interview with the West Country Masters of Alternative Hip Hop, the Scribes, over on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page, the Twitter account at CacSessionsPod, the blog over at cacophonicesessions.wordpress.com. You can now also follow us on Instagram at Cacophony Sessions, where we'll be mostly posting pictures of things that you can't hear, but we'll point you towards things that you should. And I've been to a gig, including the Wu-Tang Clan and Nas, so there are some videos up on there. And you can check out my Jot D's Jams of the Day. And most importantly, there's our Patreon page, where you can see the full version in video glory of every episode for just £5 a month. And these donations will help us to improve our content going forwards, especially the wardrobe department.
I need something that isn't blue.
We're trying to pull our money together. I need some cosmetic surgery. I need to get my dick shortened.
Thanks.
Sorry, and I can't steal that. That's Ozzy Osbourne joke. See, it's topical.
Everything is linked in the description below for the podcast, wherever you're listening. So make sure you check all that out. But before we get back into the groove of going through the James Bond themes from the 1980s onwards, how about a quick round of Does It Slap, guys?
Don't trade a podcast where the jingles are crap. So let's take a good song and ask, does it slap?
I've got one.
Right.
I really want to do this because I know at least one person will go for it. FCP Remix by Fall of Troy.
I don't know it.
Al does. He doesn't know it.
I'm not the biggest Fall of Troy fan. I like that Wacko Jacko one. That was quite good.
FCP Remix is like the big one.
I'm sorry, this isn't going to make the list, is it?
Well,
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's a no from me anyway, so I don't know.
Oh, forget it then. I'm not even going to listen to it then.
It's great. You're all missing out.
I wanted to nominate Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits.
Ooh.
After listening to it at the barbecue
That's a
last
yes.
week.
It's not my favourite Dire Straits song. Probably Your Latest Trick is my favourite, or Romeo and Juliet, Tunnel of Love. Sultans of Swing is up there.
I liked Walk of Life.
That's like my least favourite. I find that a little bit too saccharine.
It's a bit more upbeat. Sultans of Swing. I'm going to allow it in.
Ooh. Oh, that surprised me.
Wow.
I find Mark Knopfler really fucking dull. The reason I like Walk of Life is because it's Mark Knopfler not being dull. Sultans of Swing, it just gets by on a guitar solo.
It is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm going to go with, just because no one's tried to put one forward, but I'm just going to do it. I reckon Limp Bizkit Break Stuff.
It is just one of those days.
I can't.
That is the one Limp Bizkit song. I like that one. I like that. I like that one, and I like Rearranged.
That's a good one.
But other than that, I'd say anything else nominated by them would be a straight up no. But that one, yeah.
I think it's pretty hard pressed to find somebody who dislikes it.
If I wasn't a teenager when it came out, I would hate it, but it just captured the zeitgeist.
It's genuinely a bad song, but it's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how I find all Limp Bizkit songs. But that one just has enough nostalgia, and I like the music video with all the cameos. Jonathan Davis, I think Snoop Dogg's in it.
Yeah, I think Snoop Dogg wasn't it, yeah. It's just one of those days, yeah.
Yeah, just one of those days. But I don't think Tom's going to allow it anyway. So.
No, I can't.
Yeah,
I think that's fair, Tom, to be honest.
It's not a good...
I actually like it, but I think that's fair.
This isn't fair. This is horrible. This is a travesty.
If you're all nominating one, I'm going to go for something that's easy pickings. I'm going to go for Life on Mars by David Bowie.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
How does that one go again?
It's that life on Mars.
That's a pretty good rendition, I
It's
imagine.
a god of a small affair.
That doesn't actually ring a bell in the slightest.
You're going to get us done for copyright with that singing.
I kind of like David Bowie, but I haven't really...
How do you not know Life on Mars?
You know how everyone has that like complete dead area when it comes to what they should have listened to?
Yeah.
Bowie is a massive black hole for me where I just never... I still have songs where I go, oh, is this Bowie, is it? And it's just songs I've seen on TV adverts and stuff.
Okay, going for an everyone know on the David Bowie thing. What about Heroes?
Yeah. Without hesitation.
I don't love it, though.
Oh,
We do
come on.
Rocket Man, that's way better.
That's Elton
That's
John.
Rocket Man. No, that's Elton John. I'm thinking of the Ground Control to Major Tom song.
Yeah, Space Oddity.
Space Odyssey.
Yeah, can we see that one? I know that one. I'll
I'll-
pass
I'll-
that through.
I'd go with that over
I'll
Heroes.
pass that through.
Right, that's my least favourite of the three we've mentioned, but I'll still have it. It's a classic.
Yeah, I ruined the list.
I prefer the one that was on the Metal Gear Solid 5 soundtrack.
Oh, what, the Midge cover of The Man Who Sold the World?
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, I like the Nevada cover as well, especially the
Yes, that is
unplugged
great.
version.
Yeah.
It's a great song anyway.
If we're going down this rabbit hole, mid-year, best thing mid-year ever did was Vienna. But
Oh, Vienna's
that's got to be,
absolutely-
that needs to be on the list as well.
Screw the James Bond themes, guys. Let's just sit here and name
let's just
undeniable
follow-
bangers.
Oh, actually, can I get one more in? Because it's the actual one I did think of a few days ago, but completely blanked until just then. Can we have Queen, Another One Bites the Dust?
No.
That's a good one. That's great.
It's one of my least favourite Queen songs.
I think it's my favourite Queen song because it's a bit more funky. If we're going to have a Queen song that's in by everyone's standards, it's Under Pressure with David Bowie.
Somebody to Love for me.
No.
I'd have Somebody to Love. Queen get a bad rep on this podcast all the time, but there's about 6 or 7 that I do love. I think they're just a little bit too overplayed.
I don't think there's a single song by Queen that I like.
I'd pass Under Pressure.
My favourite is the Prophet's song from A Night at the Opera. It wasn't a single, but it's really clever how they mix all the stereo voices and the different layers of it. It's a great song. It's better than Bohemian Rhapsody. It's from the same album.
I've tried listening to all their albums and I haven't found a single song that I like. It's something about their style I just really hate. I'd rather listen to somebody scraping their fingernails on a blackboard than listen to Queen.
I wouldn't. I'd probably listen to Queen.
Yeah, I think I would listen to Queen.
Would you rather listen to all the Bond themes from 1981's For Your Eyes Only onwards?
Probably not. Should we just listen to Queen for the rest of the
And that was the latest episode of the Cacophony Sessions. Thanks, guys. Stay fucking... No,
Roll the credits.
we got to get through this, so we're not going to bore you with what we've been up to. There have been lots of good albums out. There have been various gigs I've been to that I mentioned earlier. But what we're going to do is we'll do a nice little CAC News update on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. And that will give you all the latest information on what we're thinking on the new releases and where we've been, what we've been up to, our thoughts. For now, though, we're going to remove all of Martin's scores from last week.
I do like the idea of wiping him from the record. Okay, do it.
Yeah, okay. Martin, you're out. Till next time. So that means that still leading, though, is the original Dr. No theme with 36 points out of a possible 40. It can be beaten. But in second place with 33.1 points is Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney. And then coming in third place, it's quite a way down, but it's You Only Live Twice by Nancy Sinatra for 29.4. So all to play for, and we're going to start with For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton, which is from 1981's movie For Your Eyes Only. This was actually originally by Blondie, and they did a completely different song called For Your Eyes Only. But this song that Sheena Easton's done was originally going to be done by Dusty Springfield or Donna Summer. So Sheena Easton seems a strange choice there, but I don't mind her voice. It's got this earnestness. It would later capture the attention of Prince in the later 80s. She became a bit of a protege there. I think the song itself is quite unremarkable, but I don't think it's incompetent. I've given it a 7.7, which is maybe quite high. Let's see what everyone else thinks.
Weirdly, Blondie wrote their own song called For Your Eyes Only, which was submitted separately, but it's on one of their albums, and it's absolute garbage.
Yeah, it's trash. It's on The Hunter.
Yeah, this is better than that.
Yeah.
But that's not saying much. The thing that disappoints me is this is written by Bill Conti, who's the guy who wrote the Rocky theme. So how did a guy who wrote iconic pieces of orchestral music make something where they put the vocals front and centre and there's basically nothing else going on other than vaguely generic 80s pop? Lyrically, it sounds like it was written by committee, but I think that's because apparently the lyricist wanted to just use For Your Eyes Only as the closing line and had his other lyrics written, and they were like, no, you've got to write it all the way through. Sheena Easton does a very good job with a very crap piece of music.
Yeah, I agree.
So I gave it a 4.
Wow. I think you guys, that's still better than what I gave it. I feel a bit bad now because I've listened to it again since I scored them all like a month ago. Now, I don't think it's quite as bad as my initial review. But I will go on the initial review because, it's fair to the other songs. Mm. I've just got, it's a crap ballad. It's got annoying keys on it. It's not really that sexy. It doesn't really feel very Bondy to me. And it's just a bit rubbish. 2.
Oh, goodness me. I feel quite generous now.
Nice.
I went 6.5. But I've also said that it's just a pretty generic song where you're missing that iconic Bond sound.
Yeah.
I liked that it mentions For Your Eyes Only in it. I've said that before. If you've got the title of the film in your song, I'm going to give you an extra
Definitely
point
double
automatically.
points.
That was pretty much all I had going for it. It's missing the amazing sort of big band stuff that we've had in a lot of the earlier songs. It's a bit of a boring love ballad almost, and that's not very Bondy for me.
Yeah, it's a bit lovey, isn't it? Like, Bond's not a love guy. Bond's a just illegitimate children everywhere, all around the world guy, isn't he? He's not really...
Yeah.
he's not that guy. It's not right.
Yeah. Music was incredibly exciting in 1981 with like new wave coming through, synth pop. Things were changing dramatically, and it's strange how Bond themes didn't make a leap forward. They just
they nearly always harked to music from the past. Like even Dr. No's bringing up something that's a couple of years out of date.
Yeah.
At times they were on the cusp of stuff, but a lot of the time they were using older established artists already, not people coming up doing great stuff.
That trend will continue as well for a little bit. I think Bond tends to be you're right. It's a few years behind what's currently trendy.
It's safe, isn't it?
There's an attempt later on to step outside of that safety that fails miserably.
There's a couple of those.
Yeah.
Particularly more recently. In the more recent ones, there's a couple of them.
But,
I find that with Bond films, like, as soon as it tries to chase the current music trends, I instantly get a little irritated by it. Which is why some of the 80s ones were really rough.
Yeah, I guess they can't really win, because if they don't chase it, then we'll say that the song's really dated and naff. And if they do chase it, then, well, wait till we get to the 2000s. We'll move on to the next one, which is from 2 years later, All Time High, from the movie Octopussy. And it is by Rita Coolidge. Now, Rita Coolidge had been famous as a singer a few years before. So again, it's a few years out of date in terms of who's actually singing it. But the big disappointment with this one is that it's not a song called Octopussy. It was originally written for Laura Branigan, who had a hit with Self-Control, which is an undeniable banger, but you guys won't know it. Italo disco hit. And that could have been interesting. It's actually written by Tim Rice, the lyrics, who would later go on to do various musicals, The Lion King.
Virtually loads of stuff with Andrew Lloyd Webber in the 90s.
And he actually wanted it to be called Octopussy as well. In fact, he relished the challenge of writing a song called Octopus, it was a little bit disappointing when they went with something a little bit less abstract, shall we say. I think this one's okay, but I don't even think it's as strong a song as the last one, personally. I've scored this lower, so 6.8 for me. I don't mind Rick Coolidge's voice, and it's a cool title, All Time High, but Dan's going to mark it down instantly. Doesn't name the movie.
It doesn't mention Octopussy, and I actually think out of all the songs on this list, it is most similar to the previous one. Two that are very, very similar next to one another.
Yeah.
Whether that was a theme they were going for back then, I don't know. But yeah, it didn't get my customary 1 point bump for having the title in the song. And I also like it slightly less than the other one. So I went for a 5. It was just a bit bland. There wasn't a lot going on here.
No.
It's not a Bond. Get to the next few. The next few are a lot better. Spoilers.
I gave it a 4. But weirdly, John Barry just ruins this one. So John Barry, who did such decent work with some of the instrumentation in the earlier Bonds, here manages to make a track that sounds absolutely nothing like anything John Barry's done. And yeah, it sounds like a shit song from a 90s Broadway musical.
Yeah.
I mean, that admittedly it's 10 years ahead of that, but it's like Rita Coolidge is well past her prime and is only picked because Barbara Broccoli loves her voice and forced her dad to do it, to put her in. She does an okay job, but not exceptional. The lyrics are rubbish.
It's not an all-time high.
To be fair, Tim Rice isn't exactly the greatest lyricist. He doesn't really do subtle metaphor. It sounds like bloody motivational poster lyrics, isn't it? That's what Tim Rice peddles in.
Can you feel the love tonight?
Yeah, exactly. I think I like the melody line in the chorus, and that's the only thing that saves this song, and that's why it got a 4 and not lower.
Yeah, it is quite catchy, that. It's an all-time high.
Yep. I myself gave it a 7. That's why I like this one.
You quite like this
one? I know.
One?
I quite liked it because it's a little different to some of the Bond sort of themes we've had, but it still sounds a bit sexy and a bit what I want from a Bond theme. But I just find it really catchy. And the only thing I found slightly off-putting is how much Rita sounds like George Michael in this song. If anyone's noticed that, she sounds like George Michael in this song.
I can hear
Honestly,
that.
Listen to it again.
I've listened to it. You said this. I can hear it. But then I'm a George Michael aficionado, so I can tell his voice a mile
I think
off.
she sounds like George Michael in this. I'm convinced.
Maybe a really young George Michael, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something about the high bits, which sounds similar to me. Maybe I'm just insane. That's probably not it.
Yeah,
I just reckon I'm right.
Usually that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah, it's usually the case. 36 years, still not wrong once, still managed to do it. Track record still going strong.
It's a good job we don't have a points of view section for this podcast, isn't it? So that one scores a turbulent 22.8, so it's not pulling up any trees either. We'll move further on into the 80s because I think there's some meat and potatoes to be found in this decade, and I think it starts with the next one. Because the next one is from the 1985 film A View to a Kill, and it is the song A View to a Kill by, and Martin's not here, guys, but we're going to talk about Duran Duran.
Or mine.
The only Bond theme to go to number 1 in the US. It was also number 1 for 2 weeks in the UK. And it sounds like a James Bond theme, and it sounds like a Duran Duran song. And I think there was a really good compromise that was reached there to check boxes in both columns. Simon Le Bon said that when John Barry wrote it with them, it was like he was the 6th member of Duran Duran. It was a really harmonious process. And I think you can tell because I really like this song. It may be my favourite Bond theme. It's very close. I ultimately scored it a 9.4. I think this is potentially my favourite, but there's a couple more that are within 0.1.
Can I get mine out of the way first? Because I'm going to feel really bad. This is probably my least favourite on there.
How can it be your least favourite?
You're wrong.
Yeah.
This is my notes, and I apologise for this. I'm doing a Tom, and I'm just going completely against everyone's opinions. My notes are Dross 1.
How?
Can we remember about 2 minutes ago when he said,
maybe it's a good Duran Duran song. It doesn't even sound Bondy.
So
it's just shit. It's not very good.
I can see what Alex means when he says it doesn't sound particularly Bondy, because the only thing that you can really get from what John Barry adds are a few brass stabs here and there.
Yeah, it's the keyboard stabs.
Yeah, apart from that, there's not really much else that Bondy going on. But that doesn't necessarily make it a bad Bond theme. Some of the other themes we've had already don't sound particularly Bondy. I think with this one, I do like it. I think the verse is pretty nondescript, but the chorus is really catchy and really, really good.
Standard 80s pop, really, then.
And I think this is...
Weak verse, banging chorus.
And I think this is the first time that Cubby Broccoli got a band who were really at their peak.
Yes.
Now, I know you could argue that Paul McCartney and Wings, maybe, but then Paul McCartney had been at his peak in the Beatles, and Wings are not great. So this is the first time he got an artist who were really big and at the peak of their career at the time.
Yeah.
And apparently, I love the story that John Taylor tells about how the fact he got drunk at a party and offered Cubby Broccoli a fiver to let them write the music for it, for a Bond film. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's not my favourite Bond theme. I think it's my third favourite, probably. So I gave it an 8.5, which is a joint second, really. But
for me, I've said some of the songs on this list are just songs. I think this does feel like a theme song, not necessarily a Bond theme, although I think it does. But you hear it, and I think you would immediately associate it as a sort of a theme song, either a TV theme or a movie theme or something like that.
Yeah, those keyboard stabs are quite dramatic. It heightens the sense of drama.
I quite like the simple drumming in it. It just really sets it off for me as well. But I'm not a massive Duran Duran fan. I like them. They're obviously from the 80s, and I feel like I'm a little bit too young to be that big into them. I haven't gone back enough. I know a few of their hits, but I just think this is a great song. I think it's a change for the series. If you listen to this one and then listen to just the ones before it, it's very different to any of the other songs so far. He's got lots of ballads, lots of sort of big brass horn sections, that sort of stuff. And then here you've got 80s electric sort of noise. And I think for me, out of the ones we've had so far, it's probably second only to the Wings, if I'm not going to count the original, the Bond theme. I've given it a 9.
I've really tanked this one, haven't I? As a song, it's crap. It's not good. I feel like I'm listening to a completely different song.
I can understand it if you'd heard the version that he sang at Live Aid, where he completely hit a bud note while he was singing it. It's not great. But studio performance, I think, is great, as with most Duran Duran songs. It was produced as well by Bernard Edwards, who was the bassist in Chic.
Bernard? Never heard of him.
Yeah, but good old Bernard. No, Bernard Edwards was one of the...
bassist in Chic, yeah.
Yeah, he was the bassist in Chic, but he was one of the best bassists ever, was involved with Power Station now, who did We Fight for Love, the theme to Commando.
One of the best songs ever made.
I love that song.
Which actually has a lot of similarities to this song.
No, it does not. It sounds nothing like it.
It's the same drummer, the same musicians, with the same producer. So
it doesn't sound anything like it, though. It doesn't matter.
Have you just accidentally clicked on the wrong song? That's what I'm like wondering with this.
I just don't get what you guys...
Welcome to my world, Al.
I feel like Tom right now. I've become a bit of a menace on this.
We don't know that yet. Got another one which is in a similar vein that follows it. From 1987's The Living Daylights, this one is another pop song from a band who were big at the time. This time they went for Norwegian act Aha, and the song is The Living Daylights. There's two versions of this. There's the version that I'm actually more familiar with, which is on the Aha album. But there's the single version that's actually played in the movie. I love both. I prefer the album version to the single version, but I still think it's very strong. I scored it a 9.3.
There's another version that's also even better from a live album in the 2000s called How Can I Sleep With Your Voice in My Head, where they do an 11-minute extended live version with like reggae sections and they really mix it up. If you like the song, it's really good. If you don't like the song to begin with, don't think you're going to love it at the end of it. This is my favourite Bond song by a long way. I'm going to put it out here right now. Morton Harkett is a better vocalist than Simon Le Bon.
Oh, that's a really difficult question. Oh, yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I agree with you. Simply on the basis that I've not seen Simon Le Bon sing a set live that I think he's a great vocalist.
Yeah,
Whereas
Morten Harket does it well enough. They've released live albums.
That 2017 MTV Unplugged version of "Take on Me" acoustic is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Aha are actually a fantastic band. They made lots of very good albums.
Analog from 2005 is a good one.
Yeah, that's a great album. That came out just after the live album I mentioned. And they had some of their like slightly less famous 80s hits like Manhattan Skyline and The Sun Always Shines on TV.
That's a classic.
It's a classic, and U2 totally ripped it off on I'm trying to remember the name of the song. It's Touch Me, Take Me to That Other Place that U2 sing.
It's Beautiful Day.
Yeah, Beautiful Day totally rips off The Sun Always Shines on TV.
I can hear that now that you've said it,
Yeah.
Touch me.
Yeah. See, you've got it now.
Yeah.
U2 completely rip it off. I'm amazed they never got sued for that.
The Blue Skies are a good tune as well from that Aha album.
I wasn't particularly familiar with this song because I think it's probably one of the Bond films that I've seen the least.
Never heard of this Bond film, honestly. I've never
It's
heard
really
of
the
it.
good.
Timothy Dalton ones are a bit obscure, aren't they?
He's more famous for his role in Hot Fuzz than he is as playing Bond.
Or Flash Gordon.
Wait, back to Queen, the Flash Gordon soundtrack. Anyway.
No, Jesus.
No, that is pretty bad.
It is.
I really like the 80s sound to this, though. I actually, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, it could be just as good as the previous song. I've ended up scoring it an 8, so close. But I wonder if it suffered historically. A lot of these Bond soundtracks are really famous. You hear Thunderball and people out on the street would know it, that sort of thing. This is not one of those because it's probably a less famous film. But the song, I think, does it a lot of justice.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting quote, though, from the keyboardist Magne Furuholmen, which is my attempt at Norwegian.
I wish that was my name.
Apologies, Magna. Apparently, he was quoted as saying that John Barry was like, or apparently John Barry had compared them to being the Hitler Youth because they were having a lot of difficulties working together as opposed to Duran Duran.
The complete opposite in their case.
Can you say his name again, please?
Magne Furuholmen. I don't know.
There we go. I really enjoyed that. Sorry.
For all our Scandinavian listeners, we know you are numerous. Let us know in the comments how Dan did below.
Was I close? Was I a million miles away?
Definitely. Nailed the pronunciation. Nailed it.
Nobody does it better.
I hope you do get it right. Otherwise, they'll beat the living daylights out of you.
Oh, I think I prefer Whittle's one, actually.
It's got to happen eventually. I'm going to have the
I like it because it's extra wordy. It makes it just a little bit bad, or is it good?
When all else fails, just use verbosity and you'll be okay.
I gave this one a 5.
Yeah.
I had the same issues I had with the Duran Duran song because the actual song itself I thought was okay. That's why I've given it a 5 because it's like Duran Duran, but better and an actual good song. Sorry, Martin. It's just a pretty good 80s song. Like, I think the vocals are pretty good on this and the music's pretty cool. It's not Bondy enough for me. This is the problem. I feel like I'm judging on a different scale to you guys. I think some of you guys are just going, is it a good song? While something is it a good song for a Bond film? So I'm a professional, guys.
Is it Bondiose enough?
Bondiose, yeah. It doesn't feel Bondiose enough.
No. Yeah, see, it has a ring to it. It falls off the tongue.
I have to start calling me Sherman after this, after all the tanking I'm doing.
I believe that's enough to get it into 3rd place, but no higher, unfortunately. Continue our pursuit through the 80s to the final film from the 80s, another Timothy Dalton film that I haven't seen. It's from 1989. It's Licence to Kill. This one is by Gladys Knight, and it's also the longest Bond theme. I do like Gladys Knight. She did the original version of I Heard It Through the Grapevine with the Pips before Marvin Gaye. It's produced by Narada Michael Walden, who's done a few songs that I like. I like some of his solo material. And he did produce Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship. So he's got form for big songs, for movies. That was from Mannequin. And I think this one's good, but it is too long. It could do without the key change. It was going to originally be a guitar track from Eric Clapton and Vic Flick, who's the guitarist who played the original Dr. No guitar riff. But this never actually happened. It would have been cool to hear Vic Flick, but anything from Eric Clapton after the 70s, I'm very sceptical of. I'm actually pleased we've got Gladys Knight instead in that instance. I scored it a 7.9. It's a strong song, but it's not amazing.
I don't understand how you've got the Empress of Soul, you've got Narada Michael Walden, who also was the drummer for the Mahavishnu Orchestra and Weather Report. Seriously good musician.
Oh, his career's incredible.
Yeah, and then you stick them with the producer, or Baby Love, who is most famous for producing My Heart Will Go On, and Baby Love's sound is the one that takes over the whole thing, and all these great musicians. You just end up with a really bland song. But Gladys Knight's personality rescues it and got it a 5 from me. 5. Purely because she's very good. The thing is, in all of their discographies, apart from maybe Baby Love, it's probably one of the worst things in them.
Yeah.
But that's because...
I don't think it's terrible, though.
Yeah, but it's not terrible. It's just below the standards of the people making it.
Yeah.
I think it harks back to Goldfinger quite significantly. I think it really sounds very similar to it, but like a phoned in version of it without the sort of really big moments. It's almost like they thought, you know what, we need to go back to that sort of Bond juice. We've got a bit of this, a bit of that. We'll put it all together and we'll see what happens. We've got a bit of a soul singer. It just doesn't quite work. It's like decent, but not hitting those highs of some of the really early ones.
Yeah.
So I've gone for a solid but not brilliant 6.
I'm the same. I gave it a 6. Pretty much for the same reasons, really. I liked it more because it does hark back to what I'd like to think is a Bond sort of sound.
It's a bit more classic sounding, yeah. Big singer. It's not an orchestra. It's a synthesizer.
Weirdly, I think this one's dated worse than the older ones. You know what I mean?
I can hear what you mean. It has that very distinctly 80s sound to it.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. I think she's a very vocalist. I think the first 5 seconds, you're like, okay, no, this sounds like a Bond theme. But I'm not, it's like you say, is it a poor imitation? Or I could put my finger on it. But 6 is fine. I think it's perfectly good, if not a little stopped Bond theme.
Yeah. Bond then took a bit of time to release another film. And License to Kill was the first that came out in all of our lifetimes, but I doubt any of us were queuing at the cinema at the age of 18 months to 2 years old to see that. The next film is the one that maybe holds the most nostalgia if you're into James Bond. Now, I'm not. And the only films I've seen are Casino Royale and The Man with the Golden Gun. So I thought, I'm doing a 2-part podcast on James Bond. I'm going to acquaint myself with the films a little bit more, but I can't be bothered to watch them because I'm not really into action movies like that. Shout out to the guys at Caravan of Garbage, 2 Australian critics with their off-the-wall interpretations of the films. I watched them review all of the upcoming Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies. Don't know what that adds to the musical discussion, but for a little bit of context, the next film is the first one that we'll probably remember, and it is GoldenEye.
It's got a lot of nostalgia for me, not because of the film, but because of the N64 video game.
Yeah, the video game.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. And what's also something that is significant about this, only due to added recent context, is that it is performed by Tina Turner, who did die on May the 24th at the age of 83. So, as normal, when somebody dies on the Cacophony sessions, we do like to pay a little bit of respect to an artist who is significant or has had a significant effect. I think this is a great Bond theme, mainly because of the nostalgia. So I can see it may not be the same for everybody, but I do really like the catchiness of it, you'll never know. It's just brilliant. I could do this at karaoke without seeing the film. And Tina Turner, I don't really like her 80s stuff as much. And this is quite reminiscent of her big rock balladeer phase. I much prefer her when she was with Ike. Unfortunately, he was a dickhead, but they made some great music together. I do like her 70s stuff. Nutbush City Limits is a undeniable banger for me. But yeah, this is a great song. It's a 9.2 from me. Anybody else with any thoughts on either the song or Tina Turner herself?
If we said no, it'd be a really boring podcast. Next. Move on. I think this is a good one. It's just very Bondy, isn't it? I think the vocals on it are pretty good. Tom's not going to like it, I guess, judging from his reaction.
Yeah.
I feel like the chorus is a little weak, maybe, but it's fine. I think it's another one of those ones where I think nostalgia, when I was listening to these, I was like, oh yeah, this is GoldenEye, brilliant. I remember GoldenEye. This is, for us, peak Bond. This is when we all started. We were watching Bond because we're in an age range where this is where we would start watching Bond. And GoldenEye, I was quite looking forward to this one. And it was just a little underwhelming. It's a pretty good song. Like, I gave it a 6, but it's not quite as good as I remember. It's good, but not amazing.
One theory I have with this song is that once you find out who wrote it, you'll either love it or hate it because of it.
Oh, I don't know.
It was actually written by Bono and The Edge from U2. So some people instantly hear that and go, oh, actually, I can hear it as a U2 song. I don't like it.
To change my
Whereas
score.
I think 1995 was a fantastic year for U2 because not only did they write this song for Tina Turner, but they also did Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me for the Batman Forever soundtrack, which I think is possibly U2's best song. Don't at me. It's the correct opinion.
Can I change my score to 1, please?
I like U2. I think they made 2 classic albums in the 80s and they've done a few decent tracks afterwards.
Yeah.
But my problem with this is you've got Tina Turner, singing legend, who did some great stuff throughout her career. You've got Bono and The Edge, who are in the middle of their sort of creative peak. And you've got Nelly Hooper producing, who basically pioneered trip hop with Massive Attack and Björk. And the intro, they just rip off the intro from Britney Spears' Baby One More Time.
Which came out 4 years afterwards.
I know, but it's the same intro, isn't it? It's not a great intro, and it wasn't a great intro then, and it wasn't a great...
Baby One More Time is a great pop song.
It's not, the intro isn't what makes it great.
I would argue that it's one of the most important aspects of that song. That da, da, da. Yeah, it gets you instantly into the song. And it's the same with this. I think it's a strength.
I don't see it. I'm sorry, Tom. I don't.
It's just the opening 4 notes. Anyway, I think my problem with this is they've managed to produce Tina Turner's vocal to sound like Shirley Bassey more than it does Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And when you've got Bono, The Edge, and Nelly Hooper, I want something good. And this is, I didn't like it that much at the time, and I like it less now, and I gave it a 4.
It was originally going to be Depeche Mode doing this.
I know, I would have liked to have heard that.
I have a lot of nostalgia for this. And I think that's possibly why my score is so generous. I really liked it, though. Even the beginning, the bum, 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 and the fact that that's all the way throughout it. It hits hard. I can imagine myself playing the game, sneaking around, dropping proximity mines and hiding and waiting for somebody to like sneak into the room, blow up. It just brings that all flooding back to me.
I wasn't a Nintendo guy and I played that.
We got the film as well with Sean Bean dying, so that's obviously
extra point for the song because Sean Bean dies.
Yeah, maybe he dies in a cool way.
Isn't it?
It's a good death for Sean Bean. Out of all of his deaths, it's one of the better ones.
It's a ridiculous one though because he falls 300 foot off a satellite and only breaks his leg, and then the satellite falls on him, and that's what kills him. Not that I've seen it; I've just seen an outline.
You've probably seen the big cut on YouTube of all of Sean Bean's deaths in everything he's ever done.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that.
Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. 8. That's a bit generous, but.
It scores at a total of 27.2, so it's not troubling the winner's podium this evening. But yeah, rest in power to Tina Turner, an exceptional singer, great load of film scores with We Don't Need Another Hero, the Thunderdome. That's another film that I haven't seen, but I like the song. I think there's a running thing here. When I talk about films, I just never watch films. It's probably a good job we're a music podcast. I will watch maybe GoldenEye at some point. I make a promise. 2 years later, James Bond returned with another 90s Pierce Brosnan outing. This one is the film Tomorrow Never Dies. The song is Tomorrow Never Dies. And the artist is Sheryl Crow. It's composed by David Arnold. It was originally going to be sung by K.D. Lang. And that's a track called Surrender, which ended up being repurposed for the end music. There were also tracks made by Pulp, Saint Etienne, Swanley, and my personal preference for this one would have been the Cardigans, but we ended up with Sheryl Crow. And now I like Sheryl Crow. She's done some good songs. All I Want to Do, Every Day is a Winding Road is great, and If It Makes You Happy, they're good songs. This isn't though. I don't think this is a very good song at all. I don't think she fits vocally, thematically. It just sounds really weak. It's a step down. It's a 5.5 for me.
Sheryl Crow peaked in her 2 albums in 93 and 96. They're both really good, actually. They're really good albums. I think the thing that annoys me is this song is like possibly the least Sheryl Crow sounding song that she's ever done.
Yeah.
David Arnold's mimicking John Barry's orchestration throughout the whole thing, whereas Surrender, sung by K.D. Lang, doesn't do the same thing and is actually a much better song, which the studio threw out and put this in instead. And I don't understand. Also, I really want to hear the Cardigans version. They are the band that should have done a Bond theme.
Yeah.
Particularly in the 90s, because this is around the time when Gran Turismo came out.
Yeah.
Which would have been perfect for this. This track isn't, but I still like it more than the last one, so I gave it 5.5.
I'm going to go on record. This is weirdly and very controversially my favourite Bond film.
Okay.
It's my favourite Bond film. It's just the Stealth Boat. It's the dumbest of the films, but I really enjoy this one. I think this is actually the first Bond film I ever watched. This came out like when I was going down to the video shop and renting movies, and this has extreme nostalgia. I gave this song an 8. Because I don't know, I guess you guys think to like way more different levels than I do when it comes to this tune, but I quite like it. I remember it coming out, so I unfortunately do have nostalgia for it, and I think it does sound sexy, and it does sound like a bit of a Bond film, but it also sounds a little more modern, but still big bandy as well. I just think it's done quite well, and I'm completely just talking around in circles to just say it's completely nostalgia. It's my favourite Bond film, so fuck you, guess an 8.
I have no problem with you giving this an 8, to be fair.
Great.
I don't have a problem with it. I just think you're wrong.
Oh, no, we discussed this. My track record, 36 years, no wrong yet.
Of course, yeah. I forgot about
Track
that.
record.
Duran 1.
That song was gash. Come on,
Yeah,
guys.
and listen, hey, this, honestly, I listened to this, and when I found out the Cardigans were going to do it, my brain replaced her voice with Nina Pearson's voice from the Cardigans, and I was like, oh, that would be so much better.
I replaced the Duran Duran one with Limp Bizkit's Fred Durst vocals.
A view to a kill, motherfucker!
Oh, that was so
Pretty
good.
cool.
I was talking about bands that I should have done a Bond theme. I mean, they did Mission Impossible, I guess.
They did do Mission Impossible.
Actually, that wasn't that terrible. Only,
Oh, cool, that song slaps.
It doesn't slap. The riff is good. Wes Borland's guitar playing sounds really cool. The rest of the song is awful.
That's the only Limp Bizkit song I think I actually
It's
like.
a great
Let's
song.
stop talking about Limp Bizkit.
No, let's just go off on a tangent.
We're going back to that
We've got
well
time.
again.
Dan, save us. What do you think of the Sheryl Crow song?
I really love Sheryl Crow's voice. It's beautiful.
She sang backing vocals for Michael Jackson on the Bad Tour. That's how good she is.
I just think for me, the song takes quite a long time to get going. I don't think anything really happens for the first couple of minutes. I like the piano and strings coming together at the end. It's quite enjoyable, but I also don't think the song ever really hits that crescendo. It's sort of like always building up, but then it never really gets to where I think it needs to go. I just found it a bit boring.
It's the edging of Bond films, is it?
It's the edging. Yeah. Never quite finishing. For me, I've gone for a 5. It's a shame because I do like her voice.
Well, it's got a stealth boat in it. No,
The film is also bad, but fun.
Oh, come on, no, it's not.
This song is boring, though. It's the opposite.
The next one is from, again, 2 years later. They made another one with Pierce Brosnan. This one is The Wild Is Not Enough. And the artist that they picked for this was Garbage. The band, not an adjective for what I think. I think this one's better than the last one, but I don't think it's great. I think it's stronger purely because I think it's a more interesting song. It's written from the perspective of a villain and sung by Shirley Manson. I quite like that. I think it's a little bit different. I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I think it may be the only one that's written from the perspective of the villain of the movie. A spoiler alert, apparently, as well, because that's a twist. I don't know what that means, but I just thought I'd put it in there.
Can't believe you've spoiled a film from 24 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Sorry, guys. This is why we're not a movie podcast, see? It just goes shambolic. Now, Shirley Manson did have a hand in changing the lyrics as well. She changed the perspective from I know when to kiss and I know when to kill to we, to using the first person plural. So she clearly had a vision for what she was doing with the song. She was quite happy to do it. I think it's okay, but 1999 is the year they could have had Old Friends for Sale by Prince. That song was actually written in 1986.
Ding, ding, Prince alert.
Yeah, it's been a while, but honestly, that song would have made a great Bond theme. And it was released in 1999 from the vault, so it would fit on this. I just wanted to get a Prince reference in there. Haven't done so in a while.
This is the best lyrics that Don Black ever wrote for a Bond film. This is not really a high bar. He wrote Thunderball. David Arnold. I think the thing I find with David Arnold's involvement in the Bond films is David Arnold's a fantastic film composer. He did Independence Day, Stargate. He also did Little Britain as well, weirdly. So he can mix it up a bit. But he mimics John Barry in all of the films.
Right.
And I think, so for me, Shirley Manson is an incredible vocalist and she nails it as always. Butch Vig is in Garbage, and they always sound polished as hell. I love the band, actually. Like,
the first
Garbage
two records are great.
But yeah, they're a fantastic band. And I don't think none of their records are ever bad.
I haven't listened to them in years.
Yeah, their debut album with Stupid Girl on it is fantastic.
I think she's a great choice for a singer for a Bond theme. I just think she's got that Bond girl aesthetic to her demeanour.
This is the first of the Bond films I really have nostalgia for, because I think it's the first one I went to see in the cinema. And I really like this film, even though, again, like the last one, it's kind of...
I really like this one as well. This is sort of the Russian guy who can't feel pain because he's got a bullet lodged in his head.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
And they ever find the nuclear reactor at the end on a sub.
Although the Russian guy who can't feel any pain is Robert Carlyle from Trainspotting.
yeah. And
with
he
his
put
tiny
performance of a
eyes.
career. I've been watching that Full Monty series. It's
Is it actually any good? I haven't watched it.
It's not
yet.
great, but it's not bad. If you got Disney Plus, I'll give it a go. But the problem is, because Whittle's told me about his squinty eyes, I can't help but watch him now just stare at his squinty eyes.
He's got the eyes of a gingerbread man.
But when I think about it, like, when I see Whittle reading his script and stuff on camera, Whittle's got quite squinty eyes when he starts reading.
Oh, man.
You're the Robert Carlyle of our crew.
He can make himself conscious now.
Secretly inspired by Robert Carlyle. No, it's because I'm wearing contact lenses. Normally you see me in glasses, and of course they make your eyes physically bigger when you do that. They have to stretch your eyeball over the lens of
Oh, yeah, that makes
glasses.
sense. Yeah, totally makes sense.
That's how it works. So, yeah, The World Is Not Enough. Some scores on the doors. Then,
7.
Yeah.
I gave this one a 6. I think it's one of those ones where I think the whole tone's perfect. I think the chorus is very strong, but the verses are very weak. Not very weak, but just a little bland.
Yeah.
I think the chorus is very good and makes up for it, which is why I gave it a 6. Because I think the vocal performance on it is very good as well. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I've gone for a 6. Quite like the instrumental. It feels kind of Bondy, which I like, but
Bondios.
it's just a bit boring again.
So that one scored 25.2 points, but this one is anything but boring, the next one, because 3 years later, they made Die Another Day, the final Pierce Brosnan movie. This time, they decided to go with Madonna. And who the fuck decided this was a good idea? Well, actually, I know why. It's because she did Beautiful Stranger for Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, in 1999. And that was a good song. So they thought, Madonna will probably do a decent Bond theme. And how wrong they were, because this is absolutely abysmal. I scored it a 1.4, and that's being generous. There's no good ideas, no good execution. It's just very dated, early 2000s electro pop. But it's not a good example of it. If you go back to that time, there were great things happening from the likes of Goldfrapp, Zoot Woman, so many good electropop bands coming out in the early 2000s.
Her album Music did very well.
Yeah, that was
2000.
2000.
But that's what she's going for in this, isn't it?
Well, no, because she actually released an album this year. It came out in 2003 called American Life, and it's her worst album, comfortably. I really like Madonna's 80s stuff, a lot of the 90s stuff, so I'm not a Madonna hater, but this is just not in the upper echelons of her tunes, Bond tunes, or any tunes. It's just bad.
Oh, see, I actually disagree.
What?
My notes were, I very much doubt I hate this as much as Dan does. I actually quite like how it's totally not a traditional Bond theme. It's very much of its time in 2002 with the auto-tune and techno beats.
Yeah.
That was the thing. And I think the string part that it's Michel Colombier, he's really mimicking what like William Orbit and Craig Armstrong were doing at the time. Not as well as them, but I think he does a pretty good job. I actually don't hate it at all. I actually quite liked this style of music at the times, so I actually gave it a 6.
A 6, wow.
That is absolutely breathtaking that you gave that a 6.
Yeah, I know.
That is staggering, that is. I'll go next, and I gave this a 1, more than what Will gave it. This song, I cannot think of one redeeming factor of this song.
No, I can't.
It doesn't sound anything like a Bond film. The actual song itself is just cataclysmically bad. I have no idea what they were thinking with this one. Is it because that music song was quite popular and they thought we'll just do one a bit like that?
This sounds like music.
I think Music is a much, much better tune than this.
It is, but this is more similar than Beautiful Stranger.
It's more in keeping with the sound that she has on American Life, the song American Life.
Right.
She was in a really bad period at this time, and this single sounds like everything else, and it doesn't really sound like a she made any extra effort for James Bond at all.
I've got thoughts on this song.
Okay.
But I want to speak before about this, about Beautiful Stranger.
Okay.
I really think that's a great song. I think that would be a top 4 or 5 song. If we got it on this list, it'd be in the top 4 or 5. I think. It's a really good song. It's brilliant.
Stranger.
I like it.
It's better than this, though.
Yes, no, I'll give you. Oh yeah, getting your leg amputated is better than this. But like,
Yeah.
Oh dear. I just think my first 2 words on my notes are fucking hell. Literally, what was she on? It's like Sigmund Freud analysed this, some weird talky bits, which make no real sense. I've just said, sort your shit out. Wow, 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 wow. It almost sounds like the worst part of the Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack.
Yeah, in the new Sonic Origins collection, they couldn't get the rights to the proper songs from Sonic 3 because they're written by Michael Jackson. So they got these prototype music songs in there, and it sounds worse than they do.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It's one of those ones where you go, they just gave this to Madonna because she was a big name.
Yeah.
And
they
didn't really put any thought into it other than that. Like you said, her 80s stuff was good, even the beginning of the 90s. This is way beyond her peak, and this is that time where she had that bad period. And this song in particular is just nonsense, really.
I think she would go on to make better songs than this, though, as well. I think Hung Up is fine, and 4 Minutes with Justin Timberlake and Timbaland. There's some good songs post this.
wasn't that bad.
But this was the start of the decline for her.
The muscular era of Madonna.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ, that reminds me. Have you seen her recently?
Yes.
Have you seen her new surgery?
Taking poppers on TikTok.
She looks nothing like the same human being she did 10 years ago. Her face is just like when people go a bit too far with the surgery and they have that surgery face.
Yeah.
She's now done that to herself, and it's very sad to see.
Yeah, it's like she's been recast.
But what is there about when people get facelifts? Like they slowly, they slowly turn into looking like a cat or a lion. What is that?
It's like Maureen Ponderosa on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where she's slowly morphing into a cat over the entire series.
Yeah, it's, oh God. I actually feel bad because you can't reverse that now. You just look like that. You look, fuck me. Just be old. Just accept it. You're not going to be...
I think Madonna has problems in accepting that she's not as relevant as she once was. So she goes to drastic lengths to try and make herself appear more youthful. And I just think she's got to face the fact that she's an oldies act and she's not really going to pull in the numbers that she did anymore. And she still was at this point, though. In the early 2000s, she was still pretty popular, but I think it was in spite of the music that she was making, specifically around 2002, 2003.
I mean, she's an icon. She's always going to sell tickets. You don't have to... Just accept your age. And you can't be hot when you're like almost 70.
I don't know. Martha Stewart looks pretty good.
Debbie Harry from Blondie managed to look very good for a long time.
It still does,
actually, at 77.
Yeah, it's possible.
Not that we should be objectifying these people who are incredible musicians.
Exactly. With this particular song coming out in 2002, I thought it's, in my opinion, the worst James Bond theme. And I think our score here reflects that as well. So I thought, what other song was around in the early 2000s that would make a good Bond theme? It came out a year earlier, so it could have been used in this film. Dark Shines by Muse, I think, has very big Bond theme energy to it. And I think that if you call a bad guy Dark Shines, then it totally works. So I would have called up Muse and said, can you lay off putting Dark Shines on Origin of Symmetry? Keep it back for this film and we'll have that. And I think it would have been a far better success.
That might have worked. I think his voice would work very well for a Bond film.
Yeah, it's got that melodrama to it. And I think the song's got a central guitar line to it. It's quite sultry. So it has those Bond qualities. And the lyrics are a bit silly as well. So, yeah, for me, it ticks all the boxes.
What's the funner game is, what band would make the worst Bond theme? Because I reckon Red Hot Chili Peppers could make a fucking awful one.
That would be pretty bad.
Alpha Beat.
Incubus.
Incubus, yeah. Aqua's Turn Back Time is actually okay, though, so that would fit. I think you've got to go with someone like Scooter.
I was thinking Scooter, but for me, anything...
Daniel Bedingfield.
For me, the opposite
to be fair,
of
there's somebody coming up later who does...
I actually have a Daniel Bedingfield reference in my notes that we're coming up later, actually. So yeah, we'll strike him.
For me, the opposite of a Bond
We've got to get through this.
Is funk. It's just funk.
Yeah, you can't really have funk and Bond.
I don't think I gave you my score for this.
No, you didn't.
Sorry, I gave it a 2.
A 2. So that means that scores a total of 10.4. And
Wow.
is condemned to the bottom of the pile like the trash that it is.
Did the 0.4 not make a difference then?
No, it didn't. We'll move to the next one in the 2000s, which is Casino Royale. Actually quite a good film as well, from memory. The first Daniel Craig Bond in 2006. The song was You Know My Name, provided by Chris Cornell from Audio Slave and Soundgarden. I think this is the best quality Bond theme. In terms of the song, I think it's the best song. I just think if you were listening to this devoid of any context, I think this one would stand out to me as a great song. I've actually scored it a 9.5, which is slightly higher than Joanne Duran and Tina Turner from me, because I do think it's a quality song. Originally, I didn't think it was much to do with Bond, but in the context of the playlist, it's not really mismatched. It does fit, and I think there are enough orchestral elements, and there's a dark, brooding sense with the guitar. I think it does work. I love Chris Cornell's voice. It's high-octane energy. It's probably the most rocking of all the James Bond themes.
Hang on. Living Daylights, come on.
It's got the same sort of BPM. It's up-tempo song, but I think with the focus on the guitar on this one, it's more of an alternative rock Bond theme than a pop rock Bond theme. And I like that. I think it's exceptionally well done. Great lyrics. It doesn't compromise Chris Cornell's credibility as an artist or anything like that. I just think it's really good.
No, so I think it's probably the worst thing Chris Cornell ever did.
I love this because you can actually predict it. Like, as soon as Will goes really good, you know, songs instantly going to say really bad and vice versa.
We have very different tastes in music. We have some overlap, as it turns out. But my problem is, like, with Chris Cornell. So I remember I bought the single soundtrack on vinyl in 1992, I think. And Chris Cornell wrote most of the music for that. And it was amazing. And it was angry, and he had a point to make. And compared to everything else that Chris Cornell's done with Audio Slave and with Soundgarden, I find this so vanilla.
It's his most mainstream thing that he ever put out.
I know, and I just can't get behind it. I think, for me, Chris Cornell was great as a songwriter. I actually don't like his singing voice that much.
Oh, I do. Like a Stone is one of my favourite songs.
But I love his musicality. I normally like his lyrics. And I think David Arnold, who I gave praise to a couple of films ago, effectively cuts his balls off with this song. What they tried to do with Die Another Day, they wanted something that doesn't sound particularly Bond theme-like. They did that again here. But I think with how good Chris Cornell was, this is quite vanilla. It's not a bad song. It's not at the bottom of my pile, but it's nowhere near the top. I gave this another 6.
I gave it a 6 as well. I'm a bit with Fry a little bit. I'm not the biggest Chris Cornell guy, but I think for the most part, it does a pretty good job. I think the vocals here are pretty good. I think it was very catchy. It had all the horns, so that's the bare minimum to be a Bond theme, in my opinion. Yeah. That's the horns, so I'm pretty happy. My only thing that took it down a few notches is maybe it was a little too rocky for my liking. But that's just a personal preference for me for a Bond theme. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think maybe 6. I'm going to change it to a 6.5. I feel like I'm rough 6, but 6.5. I was undecided.
You're in a generous mood today.
I'm in a generous mood today. My hangover is finally wearing off. I can feel my limbs again without headache.
This is a Bond theme. This really is. Yeah. I disagree. I think it really sounds like one.
Yeah, I do.
Not only that, it's very much fits with Daniel Craig's Bond. I think it's brooding, but also a bit more badass in that it's like the rocky guitar bit. It's more rough-edged, I think that really fits, and I am biased because this is my favourite Bond film. It's probably the first one that I was properly into. I thought the sort of Pierce Brosnan ones was cheesy action films. But
that's why I never got
actually a really
I
good
miss
film.
the campiness.
No, and I like all the Connery ones and all that, so I do like that too, but this film, for me, I've seen this film probably 25 times. It's probably the film out of any film that I've seen more than any, apart from Die Hard. I absolutely love all of it. And I know we're not talking about the film, but because I've seen the film so many times, I've seen this intro so many times, it leads into the film.
Yeah.
And the way they do the intro with the song and the way you have like a cartoonized action sequence with cartoon cards, cartoon like
Bond,
Yeah.
bullets flying through. This song fits that so well, and I absolutely love this song. I'm not even a big Chris Cornell fan generally, so maybe that's why, like Tom said, Tom is. Yeah, I appreciate his other work. Whereas for me, I'm not really big into Soundgarden and so on. So it's just a good. This is how I know it, and I really love it. I give it a 9.5.
He has convinced me. Can I change mine to a 7? He made a compelling point, and I actually agree.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was a good one. It is a good one. Keep talking. I might get a 10. No.
And he'll suck you off.
That is enough to put it into, I believe, third place behind the original Doctor No theme and Live and Let Die. Next up, and 2 years after that, the bizarrely named Quantum of Solace. Another one where they missed the opportunity to write a song with a weird name. This time they just went with a song called Another Way to Die that was written by Jack White with Alicia Keys, also on vocals. Amy Winehouse, Leona Lewis, they were considered. And in the end, I don't think this was as successful as the previous effort in terms of alternative rock Bond themes. Pop Justice, Reader's Poll. In 2008, they voted it the second worst single of 2008. I don't think it's a particularly poor song, but I do think it's a little bit too complicated for a 4-minute Bond theme. And I don't think Alicia Keys' vocals work with what Jack White's doing.
Can you even tell which one of them's which half the time?
Yeah, I do really like Alicia Keys. I think she's a great artist from the 2000s. And The Diary of Alicia Keys is a great album, for instance. Songs in A minor. She's great. But on this, I think she's completely superfluous. And I think Jack White could have done it on his own and it would have been pretty much exactly the same. They just did it because they wanted a first, which is the first Bond duet. I think it's a strong song, but with Chris Cornell's song, I do hear the Bond elements like the horns and the kind of chord pattern that it has. This one just feels more like a raconteurs song or something like that. Yeah. It doesn't really feel very Bondy or Bondios, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a good song, but it's not quite in the upper echelons. I've scored it an 8.3.
Oh, wow. That's way hard.
Pretty high.
I think it's a really good song, but it's not
what you were just saying, yeah.
I think Jack White makes some good nods to John Barry's horn stabs in it. But apart from that, it does sound like everything he did after the White Stripes by numbers. I think the way they've done the production, you can't really tell. I was struggling to work out which one was Jack White and which one was Alicia Keys singing a lot of the time with the way it's produced. I don't think it's a dreadful song. I don't think it's great either. The two vocals are out of tune with each other when they do the oh-oh-oh-ohs partway through it. And again, I think they missed a trick writing a weird song called Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5. It's all right. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It exists.
Yeah.
I gave this a 4. I think the song itself is okay. I might give it like a 5. It's an okay rock song. But the lack of, what were we saying?
Bondiosity.
This is probably one of the least Bondios songs on the list. It brought it down to a 4. And I would put White Stripes up there with Red Hot Chili Peppers to be one of the worst bands to record a Bond theme.
Yeah.
So they've done it now. I'm just like, this song's a bit like the film. It's just a letdown. Do you reckon this was because the reason the Quantum of Solace was so rubbish? Because they actually were writing and filming it during the writer's strike.
It's based on an Ian Fleming short story as well, not a full novel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So maybe Jack was on strike as well because it's an idea song. It's all right, whatever.
I don't know if it was the version that I was listening to or what, but to me it sounded almost like it was recorded in somebody's garage. Like the quality was really poor.
That's a Jack White thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, fine. That's good. It's not just my headphones. I thought it was, again, quite dull. I thought the only bit that really saved it is sort of a late orchestral part, which sounded more bondage.
Yeah.
Other than that, I really didn't like it. Again, I agree with Tom. The voices sounded very similar, but also, like non-distinct. It was just like bland. I've gone for a 4 as well.
I don't know why, because you said bondage, it just hit me. How good a Bond would a WWE wrestler Val Venus have been? Hello, ladies. Like just the most sleaze bag.
He would have been good up until about 2003, but if you see what happened to him after he cut his hair off, he became the most generic-looking man in the world. Wouldn't have made a good Bond after the peak of his Val Venus gimmick.
I'm really glad you said that, because whenever I know about people in my youth And then have you seen them now? No, it turns out they're in prison. And it's, oh God, what awful thing has that person from the mid-90s done? It always happens.
He's got some pretty bad opinions on shit, but yeah, as far as I can tell, he's not in prison. So score 1 for Val Venus. So that one scored 21.3. So again, not really going to trouble the podiums at the end. Next up was 4 years later, and a more popular song, at least. And I think the film was maybe better. I haven't seen either, so I don't know. You'll have to tell me in the comments below. But the next one is Skyfall from 2012, which was, of course, the song Skyfall from Adele. I do think Adele is a perfect choice for a Bond theme. I don't think you really argue with that in terms of her aesthetics and her voice. But I think that the song itself is not wonderful. I do think the lyrics in the chorus do sound a bit clunky. I don't like the rhyming of Skyfall and Crumble. It sounds a bit weird. And I think that the backing vocals are pretty terrible as well. But it's got that somber presence to it. I would really love, and I've said this quite a lot, I'd love Adele to do something far more silly. So I think instead of doing this, I want to hear Adele do Snake Eater for the new Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, because that's just superbly silly. It's probably my favourite quasi-Bond theme as well. And I think Adele would be wonderful to cover it, because I just want to hear some humour in Adele. I think this is a little bit too bland. Maybe it's got some sort of emotional resonance that's attached to the film, which I haven't seen, which is why I don't get it.
It doesn't.
Oh, okay. It's just shit then. Actually, I don't think it is shit. Again, as with the previous one.
It's not shit.
I've scored it slightly lower, but I've still scored it quite highly. It's an 8.2. I think this is a stronger song, but I don't love it as much as I love like a Golden Eye or Due to a Kill. So it's not going to get above a 9. It's a low 8. It's a pleasant enough song. I just find it a little bit too boring and would have preferred to hear her do something more up-tempo.
My notes on this read like this. Vocal is good. Chorus is okay. Not bad, but definitely not amazing. 5.5.
I think that sums it up perfectly, to be honest with you. It's a bit more grandiose than the last one.
I like the grandiosity of it.
I do, but I don't think this song needs to be nearly 5 minutes long. It's just so drawn out, and it's just, there's not enough to it for that. It doesn't need to be that long. Basically, if we go back to my shtick, I would have gone 4, but she says Skyfall like 50,000 times. So I've added a point. It's a 5.
I'm one of those guys. I can't fucking stand Adele. I hate for me, she makes the most dreary, miserable music ever.
You're correct.
And it's just, and it wouldn't be so bad if it was just 1 or 2 sort of sad, emotional songs. That'd be fine. But because you hear them on the radio at work so much, you just loathe her in the end. But as much as it pains me to say this, I gave this one a 7.
She does have a great voice for it.
She does have the voice for it. It sounds like a bloody good Bond theme. It sounds very mysterious. It may take a little too long to get to the chorus, I think. I think the initial build-up takes a long time, why it wasn't really higher.
Yeah, I think that's what stops me from loving it.
Yeah, I think it hits all the criteria I would want, and it's not that bad a song. The chorus is okay. It would have got a 6, but like Dan said, got a title and the lyrics, that's all you need. 7, and it really hurts me to say this because I would like to fire Adele into the sun. So
with Drake.
With Drake.
Oh, she's so much better than Drake.
To be fair, Drake's annoying me because we were at a barbecue a couple of weeks back and we played that one song and I was like, you know what? This isn't that bad a song, actually.
Yeah.
Like, Drake for me is one of those people where if you first hear it, it's the worst song you've ever heard. But then you'll catch yourself humming it when you hear it 6 months down the line.
If you can get over your hatred of Drake, it's not bad. But when you initially hear it, you're like, I fucking hate Drake.
I do hate Drake.
We're not going to talk about Drake again.
Oh, didn't you know he's doing the new Bond thing?
That would be quite interesting.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
For the Patreon, we could just have a 15-minute power loathing of Drake. Just really unload.
If people want to hear us do a Drake special a la the Beatles special that we did, then let us know in the comments below. I don't think there's going to be much of a rush for that one.
I don't want to do that one.
It's probably just me.
Maybe that's why people would want us to do it, because they know we would hate it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, the funnest podcasts are the ones where we spew most bile, so so yeah, maybe.
But I'd have to listen to Drake.
We could just pretend, right?
Yeah.
No, we'd have to do research. We're professionals.
That's true.
That one scored 25.7 points, and we're into the final 2 on our epic journey of bondage. Yeah, let's go with it. The next one is from 2015's Spectre. The song is Writings on the Wall by Sam Smith. I think Sam Smith's got good vocals, but I think the song's quite mediocre. I actually think it sounds like, and this is the Daniel Bedingfield reference, I actually think the melody sounds a little bit like a Daniel Bedingfield song from 2002 called Honest Questions. I used to love that album in 2002. Not gone back to it very much, but it does remind me of the melody from that song. So I can't really hear it as a Bond theme because it sounds too much like something else for me. I do think Radiohead's song Spectre that they recorded is a better song than this, but it's still weird to hear Radiohead do a Bond theme, so I'm not quite sure I love that either. So I just think this is quite mediocre. I've given it a 6. I would have much preferred around the time Lana Del Rey's album Ultraviolence came out in 2014, and that's got a song on it called Shades of Cool, which is produced by Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, and that would have been a much, much better Bond theme. Don't get me wrong, Sam Smith's got a good voice, but I don't think they were the right choice for this. I think it's quite mediocre. Sam Smith has a similar problem. I've talked about this before, in that their personality is often at odds with the music that they produce. I didn't mind Unholy because there was something a little bit more interesting to it with Sam Smith, but other than that, I think that they're just quite boring.
I absolutely hate this song. Sam Smith has a fantastic voice when they sing in the lower register. They have a god-awful falsetto.
Yeah.
They are one of the lead songwriter on this song. Why would you write a song that makes your voice sound like trash?
I think it's that melodramatic Bondness, though, it brings to it. It's brooding, almost. Yeah. I do think it's got that going for it, and it's dull as dishwater, but it's got a Bond feel. It's almost, again, it's that Daniel Craig Bond of brooding, miserable older Bond who just fucking hates his life and he's getting it done.
It's a lot more introspective.
The song's dull, though.
It's the only bits of it that sound half decent are when it's doing a shit Shirley Bassey ripoff. Apart from that, I hated it. I gave it a 0.5.
Oh.
And if I ever listen to it again, it'll be too soon. It verged on making me want to rip my own ears off. I hated it that much.
Oh.
And it's a shame, because my nurse is a huge fan of Sam Smith, so I end up listening to them quite a lot at work, and I quite like a lot of their stuff. I fucking hate this.
Not one of their better tracks.
It's the worst song on the list by a fucking mile, and Radiohead's song Spectre is easily... So, Radiohead's song Spectre would probably have made a 9 out of 10 on this list for me.
I don't love it that much.
It would have been my second favourite, probably, Bond theme. It doesn't mean I love it that much, but it would have been my second favourite Bond theme. Whereas this is, 18 times better than this.
That's how it works, yeah. Can't argue with that. I like the violins. That was all right. They were quite good. Yeah, there you go. Violins.
Stick that on the review of the episode. I like the violins. Down B. There we go. Move on. What'd you score?
Did I score this? I don't remember. 5.5.
I'd give this an 8.
Whoa!
I liked this song when it first came out. I even like his highs. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tone deaf or something, but I think this song's pretty good.
I'm just going to issue a quick pronoun warning, Al.
Yeah, it's they, not he.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
We're very trans positive on this podcast, and I don't want to offend anyone in the audience, so we will use the correct pronouns.
I will try and use the correct term, but I have literally just heard about this, so if I do slip one in, it's just purely accidental. But it ticks a lot of the boxes for me for a Bond film. I think it's like when it's quiet and it starts, and when the way it builds up, it's got all the big band, and I just thought this one was quite a good one. I don't see the hate, I guess.
I don't hate it.
Oh, I
don't think it's what I completely disagree with most of everything Tom says. I didn't see any of it. I thought it's okay. As far as Bond themes go, I think it's always going to be harder for I'm just going to say it. I think it's always going to be harder for male vocalists. I know not male now, but I don't know, how do you describe someone with male vocals but isn't male? But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's always going to be harder for me to hit a Bond feel. I don't know why, but it is. And I really think...
You're thinking back to Shirley Bassey and all that sort of stuff.
But I think this one was pretty on the spot, on the money for me. I thought they nailed it.
we'll go on to our final James Bond theme, which brings us right up to date, because in 2020, the most recent James Bond film was No Time to Die. The song was called No Time to Die, and this time they gave it to Billie Eilish. This one was actually the second Bond theme to hit #1 in the UK after Duran Duran, but it's okay. I prefer it slightly to the last one. I gave it a 6.2. It's okay. I really like Billie Eilish's vocals, but after Skyfall, after Writings on the Wall, they're all quite similar songs. They blend into each other. It's all a little bit boring. I'm longing for the days where they bring someone like Chris Cornell back in to do an up-tempo one again.
They might really struggle to bring Chris Cornell back.
Well, yeah, I'd buy a Seance, the next James Bond theme.
They'd have to do that with Bond too, to be fair. Spoilers.
Oh, okay. I wasn't going to watch it anyway.
I think that maybe almost makes it tie into the film really well again, though. I know you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those where, because I haven't seen the film, it doesn't resonate with me, so I don't get it. Yeah, I understand that.
I also thought it was a really brave choice to pick Billie Eilish at this point a couple of years ago. She was big, don't get me wrong, but
it was off the back of a couple of singles.
It seemed like the first time out of this entire list where they've picked an artist just before they become massive rather than on the downturn. I really like her vocals as well. I thought they're quite powerful. They have a lot of feeling to them. I do agree though that this song, and like probably a lot of the ones from the 2000s, just doesn't really go anywhere, and it doesn't have that. You want, when you're going to see a James Bond film, you want to feel a bit like you're this cool spy who's going to sort shit out, and this never quite goes there. And that's why I've still scored it a decent score, but I really wish it started with this somber thing and then built up to some sort of fuck yeah and James Bond, deal with it kind of moment, and the song never does that. So I've gone for a 7.
I've given this one a 5. It hits everything it should hit, well sung or everything. It's just dull as dishwater. That's it. Just dull, Dullington dull.
Tom's going to love this one.
Yeah, I really like it.
Oh, you monkey molester. I don't know. It's so boring.
See, I have no problem with a song that takes a long time to go anywhere. As I'll tell you, when you listen to... I originally was going to nominate a Yonsei album for Album of the Year in 2020, and I'll listen to it, and then I withdrew it from my nomination and put Alpha Male Tea Party in instead. And, yeah, like, I have no problem with a track that takes a long time to get anywhere if it's well put together, if the instrumentation's interesting, and if the vocal performance is good. And this track has all three of those things. The high that it hits is only brief, and it does take about 3 minutes to get there. But I like, all power to Billie Eilish. Weirdly, she is almost the next female singer to conquer the world. And I think she's infinitely better than Adele.
Her Glastonbury set last year was amazing.
I do prefer her to Adele, and you're right. The 2 albums that she's put out, I'd rather listen to them than any of the Adele records. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only problem with Billie Eilish is that, like, she's never been able to top that first single she did. Like,
Bad Guy.
do. That's easily her best song, and everything else I've heard has just been worse than that.
I think that'll always be the albatross around her neck, in that is going to be her biggest song for her whole career, I think.
She went too strong too early. That was
I think she's great, and I do like the song, but I think what I'm finding is that anytime it's a serious Bond theme, because I haven't seen any of the films, they don't really strike any chords with me. So maybe if I saw the film, I would enjoy it more. But for me, I like my Bond theme to be able to, I could do it at karaoke with no references to the film, and it's just a little bit silly and melodramatic. And these latest ones are they've gone a little bit too on the artful side of somber, and it doesn't appeal to me because I'm not a Bond fan. But I can still appreciate the fact that with Sam Smith, with Adele, with Billie Eilish, they've all got great voices and they have made good songs here. They're just not for me.
So this is the only Bond film I haven't seen. This is 8 out of 10 for me. I like this one.
So that means that the final scores are in, which means...
Drum roll, please.
I'm not going to go all the way from the bottom, because we know that the Donna finished bottom. We'll do the top 5. In 5th place...
Top of the Pop's voice.
Coming in at number 5. Somebody play Yellow Pearl. You're listening to Top of the Pops with me. I'm never doing that voice again.
I kind of enjoyed that.
In 5th place with 29.5 points, it's Diamonds Are Forever by Shirley Bassey. And Coming in 4th place, 31.8. It's Aha's Living Daylights. In 3rd place, with 32 points, it's Chris Cornell with You Know My Name. And in 2nd place, it's Paul McCartney and Wings with Live and Let Die. And that means the top Bond theme of all time is the James Bond theme from Dr. No.
It's just the James Bond theme. Who would have thought we've taken about 4 hours just to get to the best Bond theme is the Bond theme.
The very first thing that we talked about at the beginning of Part A. Yeah. So this has been about 3 hours of your life.
A monumental waste of time.
We're never getting back. You're never getting it back. You didn't even watch any of the Bond movies. You could have probably watched 2 or 3 Bond movies. No, probably not in this time. But I tell you, I've had a good time. I've had a great time.
Honestly, people need to watch Tomorrow Never Dies. That's what they need to watch. It's essentially the bad guy Steve Jobs in a stealth boat. It's amazing.
I am going to watch the Pierce Brosnan Bond films, I think. I think that's something that's missing from my knowledge of pop culture references that I could just pull at will.
The Connery and Roger Moore ones are more iconic, though.
I don't know if I want to watch the Roger Moore ones because I saw The Man with the Golden Gun and it was awful.
Yeah, they're
just
not
really
great.
bad.
I really enjoyed the Timothy Dalton ones, and I think for me, him, George Lazenby, and Daniel Craig are the 3 sets of Bond films I like watching. Although I do really like The World Is Not Enough.
Brosnan is Bond for me. So that's the one I had growing up. So he just needs. That's never going to change.
So I think looking at the scores of the theme music, it's what I expected. I think most people have a reason to like Live and Let Die. It is just one of the all-time classic tunes, regardless of what you think of Paul McCartney after he left the Beatles. Seems to be one of his most enduring solo records anyway, let alone just as a Bond theme. I like the other ones as well, but it's always going to be the Dr. No theme because it's the most famous, and without it, you wouldn't really have any of the Bond themes that follow it. Worthy winner, I think. Before we wrap up this evening, we do have one last thing to get out of the way, and that is what is going to be the next episode of the Cacophony Sessions. Now, we have had a bit of a discussion before we go on the air, including with Jim and Martin as well. And I did want to put it out there. Shall we get it out of the way? Because we've been talking about it for ages. Tom's favourite year in music, and also for the 20th anniversary, I think we should do the top 15 songs of 2003.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Good times.
I will inevitably, after we record the podcast, remember another 20 songs I wish I put forward instead, and I'd get annoyed with myself.
These have been the greatest Bond themes of all time. That is our list. But it's very casual, and I'm sure everybody will disagree. So let us know in the comments below. Let us know at CAC Sessions Pod on Twitter, on the blog, on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram now, and make sure that you donate £5 a month to our Patreon if you want to see all of this in its full video glory, which, of course, you can only be doing now if you're already subscribed. So, yeah, thanks for doing that. Unless you're listening to the free audio-only version, in which case you're cool, but you're not quite that cool.
Put on your own version of what you think the best James Bond list would be, but nobody does it better.
Oh, man. So we'll end this episode on an all-time high.
I see what you did.
Remember, you're only banged twice. Stay funky.